Good evening and welcome back to Falcon Update live on MC77. I'm Charmaine Lim. Here tonight for a special town hall is Student Body President Tetsuo Takahara, Vice President of Organizations Yabetz Asefa, and Vice President of Student Review Board Matt Jenkins. If at any point during the town hall you have questions for the guests, check our social media pages and leave a comment. We will be monitoring them throughout the show for your questions. You can also email them to mc77@messiah.edu. So how are you guys doing this evening?
Pretty good. Just came from a good dinner.
Oh yeah, what'd you have?
I had some arepas and some stir fry with eggs. Yeah.
Okay. You guys? Have you?
Yeah, I just came from dinner. I had a grilled chicken sandwich at the Union, so that was good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how have you guys been settling into your roles since the semester began?
You guys want to go first?
Sure. It's been good. I think I'm still trying to find the balance between school and SGA, but for the most part, it's kind of been a little fluid of like doing something, sometimes doing the other thing, like other school-related stuff. But for the most part, it's been fun. Kevin has recommended that I schedule out time specifically made for SGA, which I'm planning to implement that, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think for me, my role went through a lot of changes in the last 2 years. So I think working to define those and figuring out like to what extent and what responsibilities I have has been very important. So going through governance council and making some changes there was really important at the start of the year for me. And yeah, I'm still working on clarifying everything that entails in my role.
Yeah, it's definitely been quite the transition. I was here over the summer, and so a lot of my work over this summer was actually planning, brainstorming, and then kind of like creating the outline and what exactly we would want to do as a cabinet throughout the year. And so now that the semester has actually started, you know, Yabetz mentioned a really good point of balance, and that's something I've been learning to find, but also just learning to, I think, trust my team and, of course, the rest of SGA, like the senators, with smaller tasks that we hope will help build and help us accomplish the larger goals that we have set for the year. So yeah, a lot of delegating.
Cool. Now, I know this is you guys' first time on the show, so would you mind explaining your roles in SGA a little bit for people who might not know exactly what VP of Organizations and VP of Student Review Board does?
Sure, I'll go first. So for the Vice President of Student Review, I'm chair of the Student Review Board, which handles more minor violations of code of conduct, so like parking or visitation appeals. So I say appeals because often resident directors are the ones who hand down the initial sanctions, and they can appeal it to the Student Review Board, who can decrease those sanctions or keep them the same. So I chair that board, I lead them in that, and then I also serve on the College Review Board, which handles more serious violations.
So my position, I'm VP of Organizations. What I basically do is just help the clubs out with whatever they need. For the most part, just trying to make everything smooth and as easy as possible for them, trying to get them to like how to get more members or how to get more involvement from students on campus, and just making sure that they have all their needs are met. If they maybe want to move up a tier, like becoming a charter club or from Recognize or something like that, then I would help them out with that.
Okay, that's really cool. We actually have an audience question from Ned on our YouTube channel, and the question is, why are we building a welcome center? Not sure if that's exactly a question you guys know how to answer, or to the best of your ability.
So from what I understand, the Welcome Center was actually an initiative that is coming from the top down, which is not too, I would say, normal, or rather, it doesn't happen too often, right? So a lot of the times we have a board of trustees that, you know, they preside and they are, so to speak, the guardians and safekeepers of the college and the direction that the college is supposed to go in. And a lot of decisions that happen typically come from the college to the Board of Trustees, right? So that's why we have student government, student senate. Our community of educators also have a senate. And so if there are decisions that need to be made, they can be passed through these things to the provost, Dr. Basinger, who can then recommend that to our president Phipps, who can then present that at Board of Trustees meetings, and then they can decide whether or not, yeah, this is something that's good and the community has spoken about it. But with the Welcome Center, the Board of Trustees felt that this was a building that was needed for the college, especially with the name change of university coming up, as well as if you look at just the way certain offices within Old Main and in Eisenhower, as well as in Hoffman, are kind of like spread out. There's no centralized location for like a proper admissions center to welcome prospective students, to host events during open days, as well as I think for students to just hang out. So in lieu, with just the way President Phipps has been striving for excellence in hospitality and service, the Board of Trustees felt that it was appropriate to commission this building. They raised the funds for it, and to also name it after President Phipps in her honor. So it was very much a top-down decision.
Okay, yeah. Going back, I guess, to the questions we had before that, how do you feel that the people before you helped prepare you for your role before you stepped into it?
Yeah, so Tim Mahoney was kind of the person who was in my role last year, and as he was the first person to kind of go about in that change process when it was still called the peer review board, and it handled some different things. So Tim kind of was the lead in changing it to this vice president student review role that was more involved in student government beyond just the peer review board now, the student review board. So Tim was really instrumental in helping give me direction to go in this role, especially as I went about making some more changes with that this year.
Okay. Yeah. So my predecessor was Brian Gilroy. He was actually pretty great. It was a big role to fill, or a big shoe to fill, when he moved out and I stepped in. But he did a great job of like showing me different transitions and like how things were operated. Yeah, he like laid out like a little he didn't have to, but on the side he wrote like a document that were things that he found helpful, which I found helpful too, just to review over them. And yeah, I think he did pretty good.
So yes, Todd Abbott, wonderful, detailed, immaculate person, human being, definitely provided a lot of structure and support, especially after the election. He immediately called me in to start shadowing him, inviting me into the meetings and into certain council meetings that I would soon be either representing or leading myself. And over the summer, it was very helpful that he left me so much content within our Messiah, like SGA M Drive, in our transition folder, with like helpful notes as to what are some things that I need to be aware of during the summer, some things I should get done, and also people I should reach out and connect with. And so definitely, I think he did a really great role in preparing me the best that he could with the time that he had.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. It's always good to have great mentors before you to kind of help you adjust into a new position, especially something like this. And so you and Jordan ran a lot on the platform of diversity. How do you think that this SGA cabinet is the best at incorporating and representing diversity on campus? So
I think just in terms of representation, we're the most diverse cabinet we've ever had, with 4 students of colors to 3 Caucasian students. If I'm not wrong, I'm the first international student body president in the history of SGA. So that was, I think, something in terms of diversity. And in terms of our platform, it's interesting just, I think, how God has continued to shape that direction. When Jordan and I first ran on this umbrella of diversity, yeah, we had a good concept, we had a good platform, and that's still the core of what we're trying to do on campus. But over the summer, we have meetings with different administrators and directors and heads of departments, as well as building a relationship with Kevin, who's our advisor. Meetings like that have continued to, I think, feed into certain directions that we as a cabinet would like to go in terms of how best can we address and champion diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if you'll lead into other questions that you have, but like, for example, over the summer, I went through the student government manual,
Mm-hmm.
and just to see how we do some things, what are some processes, and some of the questions that came to mind were, are some of our practices reflective of inclusivity and celebrating diversity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for example, wealth distribution,
Mm-hmm.
or the way we're supporting some of our clubs,
Mm-hmm.
does that reflect diversity? So I began looking at some of those things a little more, and to see how we can change some of SGA and club practices
Mm-hmm.
to better reflect and to also like show that at least within the student body, there's support in championing and addressing diversity, as well as giving voice to minority groups.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. We actually have another audience question from Paul, and the question is, what new and exciting things can we expect for homecoming?
Do you guys know anything?
Are you doing anything special?
Maybe.
Well, as far as SGA is concerned, nothing in terms of specifically the time
Mhm.
with homecoming.
Right.
I feel like a lot of that has to do with, for example, ISR alumni services,
Mhm.
maybe even SAB. But as far as SGA is concerned, we're here to. There's been a lot of open houses and people coming in, so we're ready to step in to help in any way that we can.
Mhm.
If they need the people to do things, and also just to talk to new prospective students.
Mhm.
But I'm looking more forward to, I think, having conversations with alumni
Yeah.
and having their sort of wisdom also to reflect on how we can continue to do things better. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys planning to attend the whiteout game and like homecoming dance, anything like that?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, you guys can expect to see them there. Don't be shy with your questions. Check out our social media pages and leave a comment. You can also email your questions to mc77@messiah.edu, and we will see you after a short break.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, zero.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, baby. try.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
What?
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at savethefood.com.
Welcome back to our town hall with SGA. So picking up kind of where we left off, how have you guys worked on expanding diversity now that you're in your respective positions? You've kind of touched on that each a little bit, but.
I think for me with the Student Review Board itself, the Student Review Board also is one of the most diverse and gender inclusive student review boards that we've ever had. To my knowledge, the Student Review Board hasn't been around for very long, so it's very exciting to see many diverse students coming on to the Student Review Board and being interested in that aspect of student government. So I guess working with them, developing their skills, because the board is also pretty young as well. I think working in that capacity is where I want to expand diversity the most.
So yeah, I think in my position, I think trying to get to know the club leaders more is the kind of my goal, overarching goal for this year. Trying to see like what I can help them to promote in order to like have more diversity within their clubs and organizations, and trying to interact with like certain clubs that are very diverse with others that are not, and trying to kind of bring those two together, and seeing how I can promote that, and kind of just getting to know the club leaders as well. That's kind of my goal for this semester.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there are a number of position-specific initiatives. I know Famara, who's our VP of Diversity Affairs, she's been working on a lot. She's just been having a whole bunch of different conversations with different administrators whose role, really touches into areas of diversity on campus. But I think like the core approach that we are taking as a cabinet is first, I think, just constantly being mindful. And so I know sometimes there's a pressure to have like achievement or like tangible change-oriented like mindset. It's like, oh, if we don't make this surface level change, then we haven't achieved diversity, so to speak. But I guess something I've come to learn in this role is that, and Jordan and I talked about this too when we were during the debate. But I think it really starts with here, and sort of the intention actions that we take to reflect that. We've seen that in like our hiring practices, the teams we choose to surround ourselves with. I know for me, when I was running, a lot of students asked me, Ted, I really want to see more representation on faculty within the administration. And, I empathize with that. I feel the same way, but that's something that's not within our control in terms of the actual hiring process. We can voice this. So something that I've been thinking about over the summer, and we've been trying to be intentional about, is how can we put students of color or students of diversity in positions where their voice would be most effective, So something that we have within student government are the student diplomats. And it was really interesting to be able to choose who I would want to represent myself, because I technically sit on all these committees, but I can't sit on all these committees. So to choose students based on who I know them to be, as well as knowing that they're passionate about certain topics, and then having them in these spaces, while also being mindful of the diversity of the group that I'm choosing. And not to be confused with tokenism, because I don't want to choose you just because you're a student of color.
Right.
Of course, if your experience would be beneficial for the role, then that's good. But it's kind of like normalizing diversity, and like, for example, diversity in leadership, especially student leadership, where we can have a student body and community that says like, oh yeah, we've got this student leader, and it's got nothing to do with his or her, race, ethnicity, gender, whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's not a position I would expect to find a student of color, but that should be the norm. Or,
Okay.
yeah.
We have an audience question from Inez. How do you work together to achieve life balance, and how do you hope your platform on diversity can sustain in the next couple of years?
I guess I'll tackle the second part of that, and then the first part, just to keep in line with the question of diversity. Right. So I said, for me specifically, I'm working to try to get the student leaders who are students of color and they're diverse in gender, because the board is predominantly female, which is the first time that's happened to my knowledge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so just helping them to find other roles that they feel like they can go into will help the college in the next year and 2 years, 3 years to come. And like Ted said, then that can help normalize the culture and help promote diversity as the norm. And then working on the second part of the question, how we manage the work-life balance. For me, I live by my calendar, my Outlook calendar. Everything I do is on there. So for me, that just helps me stay very organized and helping me get things done. For emails, I'll open an email and then I'll unread it, so that way it's still the notification. So until I take care of that, it'll be there without bothering me. So that's how I work to achieve that.
I can tackle the first one first. The work-life balance, like you said, the Outlook emails, it's lifesaver. I try to get all my friends to go on it and use it. They're probably annoyed of it by now, but yeah, I find it very helpful. I have my whole schedule planned out to the hour in there, but if I miss it, it's okay. But I have it there just so I know to go and refer to it when I need to. But also scheduling, okay, this is from 4 to 6 is SGA time, and from 5 to 7 is some other time on another day. And just working through that, I think is very helpful for me.
Yeah, balance. So I think adjusting your expectations as you go, and allowing yourself that grace to say, yeah, it's not going as I expected it would be. Especially when you're starting a project, you already have the expectations that, yeah, I'm going to have to juggle academics as well as SGA work. For me as a senior, I forgot that, professors and my, psych department's going to be asking you better start looking at grad school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of unexpected. And then just acclimatizing to the responsibilities and to the schedule and to the workload, that's going to take time. So it can be frustrating when things aren't going as you planned them to.
Right.
I've also had to work a lot with Outlook this year, and to kind of miss some things on your calendar that you hope to be able to do for your own personal self-care can be demotivating sometimes. But I think having a really good support group and friends that you can talk with, either friends who understand what you're going through because they're also in leadership positions,
right,
or just friends who aren't going to talk about work, right? So my roommate is one of them, and in our apartment, it's there's no work. So I don't do homework in my apartment, and I try not to go back if I still have work. So, but yeah, it's nice to have that balance with people. And to the second part of that question, that's something I've given quite a bit of thought to, and how can we continue to encourage students to care, to say that, you know, serving within our community, this community is important, is something I would like to do because I know my voice can be heard. And I think that aspect is especially important for students of color, you know, to know that their voice can be heard. And so like Matt said, you know, to kind of normalize this and show that, yeah, you know, anyone can serve, everyone should serve. And to encourage especially the first years and the sophomores that, like, you might think this is a big system and that your voice is just going to get lost in the crowd, but that's not the case.
Oh, we actually have another audience question. You guys are really popular with the audience today. We have an audience question from Bailey, and she asked, how does your platform for diversity expand for gender diversity?
So coming back to, I think, being mindful, right? And examining some of the practices that have been used up until today. And then asking ourselves the question, what can we change to better reflect, you know, Messiah's mission of inclusive excellence? You know, something that we struggled with when building a platform was like, is there really new things that we should be coming up with? When there are already so many things we've said that we're doing, you know, when you stop and think about it, the question then comes up is, are we doing that well? So, part of it is normalizing sort of who comes into these leadership positions. It's interesting because at Messiah, with the ratio between women and men, you know, there's definitely more women on campus. But, you know, there's still this feeling, or there can be a lot of instances where like masculinity plays a big role and still dictates a lot of so and so. So I think it's being mindful and encouraging, like, for example, women to step up as leaders and creating those spaces for them. And, you know, I know we got asked this question, Jordan and I, during the debate, like, you know, we're two guys, but when I look at the overall leadership team, I see so many young women filling these positions, and that's really encouraging. And I would want to continue in that trend of encouraging women to step up into leadership roles, because we definitely need more of that.
Right. And I know you mentioned that the Student Review Board is predominantly women this year, and I think that's a really amazing thing that we're moving towards, and I'm sure you're excited about having that too.
And especially because to serve in my role, you have to serve on the Student Review Board prior. It's the one role that you have to have a prerequisite for, essentially. So hopefully we can have someone filling in this role behind and as a female student, which would be awesome, because like I said, for me this year and for Tim last year, and with the board last year, there's a lot of male presence, and especially in the judiciary system as a whole in the United States, there's a lot of male presence. I know that's a hot issue of discussion as well. So seeing women come into that judicial role in SGA is really encouraging, I think.
Awesome. Don't be shy with your questions. Check our social media pages and leave a comment. Don't forget, you can also email us your questions at mc77@messiah.edu, and we will see you after the break.
Oh, hi. suppose you're wondering what an A-list celebrity like me is doing in a place like this. You must know, I'm saving the world. Oh, hi, Beth. Yep, saving the world again. Did you know that 40% of all the food produced in the United States is thrown away? That means everything that went into that food, the pesticides, the water, the land, was all for nothing. Just look at this perfectly good food thrown in the trash. The pizza with extra Cheerios, these goldfish and Band-Aid tacos. And just look at this perfect trash burger. This pasta dog looks delicious.
You don't have to dumpster dive like Ed Begley Jr. to save the planet. Fight food waste by shopping smart and using what you buy before it gets trashed.
That's way better. Ooh, arugula.
Do your part and find out other world-saving tips at betterthaned.org.
Our son Arjun was born with cystic fibrosis. CF is a genetic disease that shortens lives. The CF Foundation has made amazing progress, but until a cure is found for all people with CF, we will not stop. Help us add tomorrows. Visit cff.org today.
Hey, ready to go? I sure am. My sleep has been great ever since I started treatment for sleep apnea.
Well, nearly 30 million adults have it, including me.
Now, let me guess. It was your snoring that gave it away?
Oh, yes, it was. Intense snoring is one of the classic signs.
Other signs include gasping for breath during sleep and daytime sleepiness. If untreated, the risk of heart disease and stroke increases.
I didn't know that, but I'm glad to hear the treatment can help.
Certainly can. To learn more about the warning signs, visit defendsleep.com.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I
Right.
mean, like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, yeah, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did
Welcome back to MC77. Once again, if you have questions, please go to our social media, submit them. We're more than happy to answer them. We actually have an audience question from Ned and Kenny, and I guess maybe they're tuning in late. Yabeth, could you reiterate what your responsibilities are?
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said earlier, more so with helping the clubs on campus, making sure they get what they need, and like I relay information from like the student involvement office. I'm like a communication between that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I'm working on now is the OneDrive, which is like a way to have everybody's information in one place, so that like when leaders from like different clubs, let's say the president of one club graduates and all his information is on, the club information is on his computer. When he graduates or she graduates, it doesn't leave with that person,
Mm-hmm.
but it stays all on the OneDrive, and SGA has access to it, and we're able to make sure that the information doesn't get lost. So different ways to make things more smooth for the clubs, and whenever they need help, they can come to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have another audience question from Mike, and the question is, what are some of your goals that you think are unattainable but still would like to achieve?
So kind of ties into perhaps one of the questions you have is the app. I know
Right.
Jordan and I mentioned that we'd love to see a Messiah app.
Mm-hmm.
And we've definitely had those conversations already, especially with our ITS department. And you know, from those conversations, we've come to learn that, you know, there are a few ways we could go about doing that. We could try to have our ITS department code and create and program an app in-house from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
which would be very time-consuming, laborious, and you know, intensive, right? Or we could collaborate with a vendor
Mm-hmm.
and have them do that, and then we pay them.
Right.
Both are currently quite unfeasible, especially with the changes that are happening. And I would like to see it down in the future,
Mm-hmm.
but I also recognize that perhaps the best that we can do at this time is to gather the data, come up with a recommendation plan, and to see if anyone down the road would like to pick that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would also just be easier in terms of sustainability if we can collaborate with a vendor,
Mm-hmm.
just because if our ITS department were to build everything from scratch, it would need constant maintaining, and it's a little more unreliable in that sense if that were to happen.
Yeah, for me, I think like I would want to meet with every club leader and like attend every club there is on campus, but I know that's not possible with the time that I have. Just to get to know them, to see like, so that I have a better connection with them, so that it's more fluid, and if they can just come to me whenever they need anything.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of what I'm trying to do is try to communicate safeties and the Associate Dean of Students Office, and try to communicate exactly what the policies of the college are. And something that idea that spawned out of the community climate report that happened a year and a half ago now. There's a public misconception as to what the code of conduct is and what the community covenant is. So the community covenant is kind of the behaviors or the reasoning behind why Messiah has the policies that it does have, and kind of values we have.
Right.
And the code of conduct outlines, the things you are not to do essentially, and clarifying something like that and helping students understand what actually is said in the community covenant and what is actually said in the code of conduct is something that I want to take on, but I'm not sure what student interest in that is, honestly. So trying to communicate those distinctions I think is important, but I'm not sure how to drum up student support for that as of right now.
I mean, honestly, to this day, I didn't even know there was that much of a difference. So, hey, the fact that I've been here for 4 years and didn't know that, I'm sure there are plenty of people who would be interested in knowing more about that. We have another audience question from Ryan. He asks, how do we reconcile progress with tradition when it comes to campus events?
I feel like that's a really broad question.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with changes like Messiah University and with a new building coming up, I guess some people are worried that it's not going to be the same Messiah that they knew, or that things will be more different than, they're expecting it to be. Change is kind of scary, and I'm sure you guys know that, settling into new roles like this.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important to kind of separate the two? Do you think that they kind of go hand in hand?
Yes, I definitely agree that change can be intimidating. But I also think that change is necessary sometimes. How do we reconcile the two, tradition and change? So I sit on the University Name Change Implementation Task Force. And, there's so many aspects to a name change, right? And so I sit on a particular subcommittee that looks to celebrate the name change. And some of the celebrations actually involve a lot of history. It involves a lot of reflecting on some of the changes that have happened in the past that have been good, and continue to keep in line with actually the tradition that has been formed within a particular environment, in this case Messiah, right? Messiah has gone through many name changes in the past.
Right.
And with each name change, there's been a slight either expansion or diminishing of mission statement, or, target audience, or even, role in the world or within this community. And so I don't think reconciling is difficult as long as our core values remain the same, and that the people working to reconcile these differences are faithful to those values, right? So once we get over the initial intimidation of change, I think there's a lot more room to see that just because change is happening doesn't mean the difference is penultimately moving in a completely opposite direction.
Yeah, I think a ready example of that is with the Falcon Fitness Center. So, seniors, juniors, even when I was a prospective student, I remember all that construction we went through.
Yep.
But now that we have that space, we have that facility, I think we're all so thankful to have it. And, this is going to be something else with the changes going about in construction. I think students down the line are going to be so thankful to have that space, that green space that they can go right from Klein to the High Center. And even though we're the ones that are experiencing that change in process, I think remembering the benefits and the joy that future students are going to get out of it is what's most important. Because ultimately that's what all this construction is for. All this change is for them, for the benefit of the future of Messiah and the students that go here.
I think it's just going to take some time to adjust, like anything. But I think it's good that we try different things so that, because certain things might work, certain things might not, and if they don't work, we're always able to change back to a different style. But I think giving it some time will definitely help in the process.
Yeah, I think that was very thoughtful of each of you guys. We have another audience question from Jessica, who says, who on campus has inspired you most this semester and why?
That's a tough one.
This semester?
I mean, we're a little over a month into the semester, so I don't know if there's anyone particularly that inspires you just yet.
Yeah, I think this is going to go outside this semester, but the person that definitely inspired me the most was the person who was in my role before, was Tim Mahoney. He kind of took me under his wing because I was the only applicant for the first year position on the student review board last year. And I was kind of timid coming into that role, and just having that senior to kind of mentor me as I was coming into college. I was getting involved with SGA. I think that was so important for me to become willing to enter leadership, to even apply for it. Just having someone that took me under the wing, taught me what SGA was about, the values of Messiah College, and everything that I know now and everything that I know about the college now. It all goes back to him and his mentorship.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna go with Kevin Villegas. He's kind of hearing about his story, and as well as the discipline that he emits, if that makes sense. Just seeing that it is possible to overcome certain adversaries or certain things, and being able to have the discipline to do your work when it's time to do your work, and things like that. And just his drive, I think has been amazing for me.
Yeah, I don't think my answer can be confined to just one semester as well, as there are definitely a lot of people that I've met here during my time here that have led me to want to where I am today, right? So big person that really inspired me to get into SGA and to serve was Jamie Clare, who's president 2 terms before this. Yeah, and but also I think since stepping into this role, I've really had the privilege of getting to know the administration and to see how they handle leadership on a constant daily basis. And I know observing President Phipps, especially during move-in day, she just goes around in her Presmobile. And the way she carries herself and, just weaves hospitality with leadership, that's definitely been very inspiring. And I would agree with you, Bets. I got to know Kevin a lot more over the summer, and to have him as our advisor, but also I think as a sort of mentor, I've been very grateful for that. But at the end of the day, the drive to serve the community comes from the community. And so during my time as an RA was getting to know my residents, their stories. In leadership training week, getting to know my cabinet and also the other student leaders on campus.
Yeah.
And so it's these connections that I think continue to motivate me.
We are on a roll with audience questions tonight. We have one from Bailey. It says, Yabetz, do you have plans to enact some of your vision in future years by running for president? Now, I don't know if she means president of the United States, president of the college, student body president, but take your pick.
I don't know where this question came from.
And this is where we find out that Yabetz is actually seeking to overthrow Tet.
Not actually, but me and Tet are buddies. Can I choose not to answer a question?
Sure, that's perfectly fine. We have an audience question from Hoopler, and it says, what is the most rewarding part of being an SGA?
I think for me, being part of the disciplinary process and like hearing appeals and getting the opportunity to give the students a voice in that disciplinary process, which you think of as a college process and something that students aren't really involved with, being an active part of that inspires and it motivates me really to be in the role. I love giving students a voice, and I think that's what I'm doing in my role. Yeah.
Need some time?
I think being on the cabinet has been very fruitful for me. Just having people around that to talk to, and knowing that there's other people that have just as much work as you, and they're working as hard, but you also know that they're there to support you if you need any help. It's been awesome, and like just relational wise, getting to know them on a deeper level has been really awesome for me.
Benefits, right? Similar to your bets, the relationships that I've made and the connections that I've made both within the student community as well as within administration, I think very, very unique to being in this position, because, being the bridge that we call ourselves and everyone sees us as, we're almost stepping into this like unique space of being somewhat almost colleagues with some of the administrators because of the things they tell us and how they hope to collaborate with us. But also, you work each day to work towards a goal that you hope will be good and sustainable and impactful in the long run. And when you start seeing some of those changes happen, it's definitely fulfilling. And you can do nothing but pray and hope that God will take that seed and grow it into a big tree.
Okay. We're going to kind of shift a little bit away from the audience questions now. And I had heard from a few people that there are going to be some changes coming to payroll. Is that something you guys can talk about a little more freely right now, or is that still under wraps?
So we actually did just pass a proposal within governance review that addresses how executive student leaders within the executive clubs and organizations are getting paid, right? And so up until recently, we have been using a wage model. And so student leaders in paid positions, they have a timesheet, and they get compensated for a certain amount of hours based on their service, right? And so this is something that Kevin brought to my attention over the summer, and something we've been working on and recently passed was that instead of a wage model, we wanted to move into a grant model. And so we recently passed the SGA Leader Fellowship Grant. And so essentially this would be student leaders stepping into these paid positions will be financially recognized by the college via this grant. And so instead of timesheets and time reporting and advisor approval, the moment you're approved as this position, twice a semester, you get your financial reward, presented to you. And we thought that made more sense in creating a culture of actual service rather than this is just another paid position for me to fulfill the hours so I can get my paycheck.
And when will this be in effect? Do you know yet?
So since it's been passed by Senate, we will begin implementing this in spring.
Okay, awesome. And we have our final audience question from Mike, and it says, has your upbringing helped you in your role? Please give a specific example if you can.
Like family upbringing?
Yeah, family, cultural.
Well, Well, I would say within my own childhood, definitely brought up to be very inquisitive, to enjoy learning. But really, I think it was a mixture of that upbringing within my family. Definitely got a lot of hospitality and empathy from my family, combined with my own spiritual faith journey. And as I come to mature in my faith, to learn what it means to love those around me, and then coming here to Messiah and then being challenged in my faith to really examine, like, oh, you know, what is it that you thought you knew about this faith, this Christian faith, and then what does that mean, you know, to be challenged to apply this, so to speak, practically. And maybe that's just the Anabaptist flavor that Messiah has here. But all these have really come to, I think, combine together to make that has made me want to run, that has made me want to serve in this capacity. And being a relational person, I think, definitely has helped with my role as president so far.
I think for me, what really shaped me being into this role, and what shaped me into being in the student review board in the first place, wasn't so much my younger upbringing, but the development of my character in high school, I think. As I found things I was passionate about, I found that I was really passionate about the judiciary system. And so I started joining youth and government, speech and debate, those sort of activities. And from there, coming into college was an easy fit for me. But then serving in that leadership role, yes, seeing my siblings are both a lot older than me, so I always had those role models to look up to, and I felt nurtured by them. So I think always having like someone to look up to, even now as they're successful out of college, I think they still motivate me, and they still want me to try to develop other people and everything they can do, and try to get them finding their passions and what they enjoy.
Yeah. I would love to hear your answer. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I think that was a great question to end on. I'm sorry you didn't get the chance to answer it. That's all the time we have for tonight. A big thank you to Tet, Yabetz, and Matt for being our guests this evening. Tune in next week for our regular Falcon Update and MC Live show. I'm Charmaine Lim, and have a great night, guys.
I'm Lily. I am a junior, and I am a broadcasting and media production major at Messiah College. I chose to be a broadcasting and media production major because as a little girl, I dreamt of being a TV anchor. There are so many opportunities you can have as a broadcasting major. Messiah is really unique in the fact that we have our own TV station, and it's student-led, so each week we have Falcon Update, which is a half hour, and then we have MC Live, which is a half hour as well. My favorite part is just being in the hustle and bustle of everything, and I'm really excited to just be creative when I'm putting together news packages or shooting other stories, just really getting every element of storytelling in my work. So we have a lot of faith-based projects. Right now we're working on one, it's called Faith Sides for multimedia storytelling. In pairs we're interviewing each other for 2 minutes about some aspect of faith. A lot of students from our major either intern at MC77 or WGAL. I shadowed one of my professors at a Hershey Bears game. The Bears are a local AHL hockey team, and through that experience I developed connections, and eventually I got a job there. So I run the Crossfire machine and the LEDs on game days. My freshman year at Messiah, when I first came, I knew absolutely nothing about broadcasting or media, and now I feel confident that I can go work at a TV news station.
Welcome back to MC77. Here is this week's campus calendar. On Friday, October 18th, gallery lecture Was God Dead by Daniel Seidel is a biblical imagination in German expressionist prints. This event is free to attend and will begin at 4:15 and end around 6 p.m. in the Augenball Art Gallery in the Kleiman-Hege building. The exhibition will be open through November 26th. Also on Friday, Otto Dieck's Matthäus Evangelium art exhibition will be open and will be up through November 26th. Lost Films will be presenting Toy Story 4 on Friday, October 18th at 6 and 9 p.m. and Saturday, October 19th at 3, 6, and 9. Messiah College Symphony Orchestra is presenting their family concert on Saturday, October 19th in Palmer Hall at 11 a.m. No ticket is required for this event and it is open to students and the public. Following the orchestra this Saturday is Messiah College's concert choir and alumni choir. This event will also take place in Palmer Hall. It is free and open to the public. The choirs are set to start at 4 p.m. To end a long day at Palmer Hall, come out to the Messiah College Jazz Ensembles. They will start at 7:30 p.m. and go until 9 p.m. Like the other events, this one is free and open to the public. That's all for this week's campus calendar. I'm Kenny Runkle.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue.
Welcome back from fall break. With Halloween arriving soon, it's time to start getting ready with a few slightly spooky suggestions. Inspired by a collection of strange photos he found, Ransom Riggs created the world of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Jacob Portman sets off to a small island off the coast of Wales after a horrifying family tragedy. There, he discovers Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, an abandoned orphanage that was once rumored to house people with strange abilities. As he explores, Jacob learns that the children's abilities might have kept them confined to the island, and just maybe, they could still be alive. A Tim Burton classic for this time of year, This Is Halloween might be one of the most iconic spooky Disney songs. The eerie music and cleverly arranged vocals are easily recognized as the opening song to The Nightmare Before Christmas. Taking place in the time between Halloween and Christmas, this haunting song is perfect for a night of dressing up and glowing jack-o'-lanterns. Stranger Things, one of Netflix's most popular original series, has a notable creepy vibe to it. A dive back into the 80s with board games and a nighttime adventure on bicycles, the show sets a fun, dark tone. When Will Byers goes missing, his family and friends do everything they can to find him. Then a mysterious girl shows up, and the people of Hawkins have to ask themselves if they really know what's going on in their small town. While E.T. may not be a scary movie, it certainly has the alien vibe and plays well with the Halloween theme of non-natural creatures. A classic movie that took on a family-friendly approach with aliens visiting Earth is always a good choice during October. When two brothers, Elliot and Michael, accidentally find an alien stranded near their house, they decide to befriend him. And when it becomes clear that E.T. needs to go home, Elliot and Michael try everything to make sure their friend gets home safely. Don't forget to spend time with your family and friends this weekend as part of homecoming. Not only will there be events for alumni, there are also events for students and their families. If you choose not to do anything specifically homecoming related, it's a good time to appreciate and reflect on the changes we've been through and how Messiah has really become a home for us. That's all for this week's Daily De-Stressors. I'm Charmaine Lim.